Welcome back to another Alvado video. Now in today's video we're going to be watching a game played by Dish Soap, the current rank 1 holder in NA. And yes, it is true, I do watch a lot of Dish Soap VODs, but how can you blame me when he's held the rank 1 spot for so long? At the end of the day, I'm using these videos to try and learn from them and try and share what I learn with you guys. And the thing is that he's easily one of the most consistent players at providing the best information. And of course, we are playing on a new patch in this game, but before we get into the game, there's two things that I want to tell you. This comment was posted on one of my previous videos, and I thought it was pretty funny, so I wanted to share it with you guys. Hopefully you get a kick out of it too. And second, I am trying to grow my channel. My goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers at the moment, so I'm going to ask that you subscribe. Okay, now let's get into the game. He started BF Sword, and he got dropped a tier. You can see he has 3 pairs currently, and there's a Nasus pair in the shop. Gets a lot of money. He's selling units, he's buying units, he prefers holding on to the Nasus pair, and we can see the first augment of the game, and it is a 1-cost hero augment, 111. He considers, all the options for a very long time. This video is in 2x speed, so you can imagine how long he actually contemplates this decision. But he ends up going with Petricide Chains. Is that how you pronounce it? I actually don't know. But we can see the first iteration of this combo that he chooses to go for, where he's playing 2 of these Silas. Now, if you do not know, Petricide Chains says, at the start of the combat, Silas gives your entire team 30 starting mana, or, your entire team gets 30 starting mana. And when Silas uses his ult, he mana reaves. So his ult makes enemies cast cost 35% more, and he gives your team more mana. Now, with this Silas augment, if you field 2 of them, it actually triggers off of both Silas. So instead of getting 30 starting mana, your entire team gets 60 starting mana. And in a board like this, where it's in the early game, it's not going to make that big of a difference. Even if you get Nasus and, Ezreal to insta-cast, it's not that big of a deal. But you can see later on in the game, it starts making a massive difference, because when you start getting units that have very impactful abilities, getting them to cast super early on in a fight, and, it matters a whole lot. He was able to get Underground there. And since he only has 2 items, he got an econ opener. He makes Shojin, and he's in a perfect spot to play Underground because he wants to be losing in the first place. Second pick on the carousel, he doesn't really know what he wants. He ends up going for Sword. Started Sword, and he made Shojin, so I don't know the exact decision behind this exactly. Because, if you're choosing to slam Shojin after starting BF Sword, then there's a good chance that you want to be playing AP. But the issue is that if you grab another sword and, you get sent a whole lot of AD items, then you're not going to be able to effectively use this Shojin. There's a good chance that he's going to get, more swords down the line because he started Sword. He does have this Reforger though, so at the very least, he can always choose to Reforge the Sword or the Shojin depending on which items he gets dropped later on in the game. You can see that he's currently 3 lost, and he really needs to 4 loss this if he wants to maintain his economy. He does not care about his health total right now, he wants more money. He wants to be losing anyways because he has Underground. He does enough scouting where he realizes that he doesn't need to make his board any weaker. I mean, it's already really weak. But yeah, he successfully gets that 4 loss going into Krug, so he's going to get 2 extra gold from 4 lossing right now, and then he's going to get the 2 extra gold from 4 lossing on Krugs, which is why it's so good to streak into Krugs, because you can also make your streak gold, on PvE rounds. Now, this board doesn't look strong enough to beat Krugs. The thing is that both of these Silases are giving his team a bunch of mana. So even though his board is not very strong, a board where you get Sona and Ezreal and Kayle to all insta-cast is strong enough to beat those Krugs. And of course, he's positioning on the right side there. If you're ever struggling with figuring out how to beat Krugs, You want to make sure all of your units are targeting that Krug on the very far right, and then, you know, hopefully your team is strong enough to finish off the other ones. He gets dropped Rod, Belt, and Sword there. You can see he already gets dropped another Sword, so it's going to be really difficult playing around that item. But he goes ahead and makes Gunblade, and I think his idea right now is that he wants to be playing around Misfortune. Let's look at what he chooses to do when he gets shown the second augment. Doesn't like what he sees. I think he was considering maybe going Battle Mage and playing Viego, but the thing is that there were already a bunch of Viego players, so he doesn't want to have to go for that. He looks at his money, he sees how rich he is, and he's thinking, man, I could be making 70 gold with Rich Get Richer. He's going to be making 7 gold of interest every round from here on out, and he gets the underground cash out, which gives him even more gold. He's able to go level 6, maintaining 70 gold. So even though he's going to be losing a lot of HP, his spot, you know, it really does not look that good right now. But with this much gold, he knows for a fact that, you know, when he hits level 8, he's going to be rolling a ridiculous amount of gold, and he knows that he's going to be able to stabilize. But like I said earlier, his game plan is to play around Misfortune right now. Misfortune holds Shojin and Gunblade pretty well. He can very easily fit in 3 Enema Squad with Misfortune Silas +1. But the issue with that plan is that since he's playing around Underground right now, that means that he's not getting Anima Squad stacks in. And you think Anima Squad stacks don't matter, you're very mistaken. Because, you know, the difference between 0 and 200 extra HP on all of your Anima Squad units later on in the game can matter, you know, a lot. Even if you don't care about the frontline HP, even just making your Misfortune less squishy is a pretty big deal. So he wanted the Misfortune, but he didn't want the item stuck on Misfortune, so he reforged it. But the issue is that he reforged it into a glove. He still cannot really make any items. He could go ahead and make Guard Breaker. Without any crit, he wouldn't really be using that item most effectively. But with this Silas on his board, you know, he's able to get this MF cast off really quickly, and that's going to be able to hopefully save him some HP, because the MF is really good at, you know, killing units. So he actually does go ahead and make this Guard Breaker. He's still trying to maintain his 70 gold threshold. He's level 7, almost level 8 at this point. He is uber rich right now. And even though he's extremely low, like I said, he's going to be able to roll infinite gold later on in the game and try and stabilize around that. And hopefully just win out. And now it's time to start playing the game. He levels to 8 and he starts rolling on wolves. He knows that he's not going to be able to make the full transition within just the next round, so he needs to roll some here. He rolls some, he's holding on to 8 souls because he knows he doesn't have anti-heal, and it looks like he's starting to formulate a Renegade board. He's holding on to Dravens because he also was considering playing a 4/8 line, but after hitting that Renegade out of the tome, he's fully committed to playing Vertical Renegade. Goes ahead and removes the items from his MFs because he finds this Ace-Hole too, and he wants to put the Renegade item on this Ace-Hole as well on top of this Shojin. He's also able to find a Viego too, and now look at this guy's board on 4-1. You know, a lot of people would be shaken being this low HP on 4-1, but I mean, with how much gold he had, it would be really hard to miss everything here, because you can see that, you know, even though he missed Misfortune, he hit Ace-Hole and he hit Viego, so he was able to formulate a game plan around them. After seeing the final augment, he doesn't want Sunfire board, and he chooses to go for First Aid Kit. He doesn't have that much healing, but he does have healing on his Viego, and he does have Mascot in, so he's able to, you know, get some, you know, extra healing is always good. You can see that he is choosing to play 2 Silases. He has 3 Renegade in. He's not able to fit 6 in until he hits a Leona. He does not have a Leona, so he thinks that this is one of his strongest boards, which I think he'd be correct, because watch this next fight, right? Try and watch units like Asol and Nunu and Viego. They all just instacast. Now they're instacasting, of course, because of that interaction that I talked about earlier with Silas. You field more than one Silas with this hero augment, then you actually get 2 times the use of the hero augment, and your units all gain 60 starting mana instead of getting 30 starting mana. He doesn't know what to go for. He has a Nunu, so he just wants to get this Nunu pair. Maybe he high rolls and gets a Nunu too, and then he can play around, you know, this Nunu for the rest of the game. He's doing a bit of scouting. He's trying to figure out exactly how he wants to position to make sure he doesn't get his Asol griefed. And he's basically just putting his Viego in the very center and having it, you know, encompassed by the rest of his front line. Able to find Echo 2 there. He has this Fiddlestick, so that's also, you know, supporting his board very well, making him a lot more stable. Able to consider start going level 9. You can see he's already back up to above 50 gold. He's actually going to be making 60. Of course, he's still holding on to these Talons because he does want to cap out with 6 Renegade. And he's not going to swap his board, but he's just thinking about how he wants to formulate his board. So he's thinking about what units he needs to drop in order to fit 6 Renegade in. And he's thinking about dropping, you know, one of the Silases and maybe Echo or something. Able to get Thieves Gloves from the tome there. Thieves Gloves easily one of the best items that you can get as one of your last items, especially when he has 2 item Viego carry. I mean, he has 3 item Viego carry, 3 item Asol carry. Even if he could get, you know, a solid tank item in that spot, it wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't be that worth it because items scale with other items. So he's able to find a Camille. That was probably the hardest one to find. And since he's level 9, he's able to find a Leona. Now he has 6 Renegade in, and you can see that he's not playing double Silas anymore because 6 Renegade, the effect of 6 Renegade is so strong that he doesn't think that he needs the starting mana. But it's pretty crazy because you can do specific combos where, let's say you don't have this Renegade spat and you have this Silas augment and you want to play around 3 Renegade because you can't even fit 6 Renegade in if you don't have the spat. You can play double Silas and then a Leona with a tier item, and the Leona will instacast. And if you do not know, instacast Leona is insane because she just starts casting on the unit that, you know, is closest to her. So if she's in the back line and she starts to cast, then she'll start casting on the frontline unit while staying in the back line. Like, the beam will just go to them immediately. So instacast Leona is very powerful, and that's like one way that you can kind of abuse this Silas augment. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see how he's able to turn this game around. And, you know, he was 27 HP like 10 rounds ago, and you can see he's still 27 HP because he has not lost a fight. He probably is not going to lose a fight anytime soon. He's able to get an Aegis Crest off of the carousel, and since he's already playing around, you know, Echo and Alistar and Leona, getting 4 Aegis in is a massive spike, considering that I think most of the lobby was playing AP. I think this is the 1 AD guy. And yeah, so 4 Aegis, it's not that, you know, it's really strong as an item to put on one of these units. You can see that he put Aegis on Talon. It's not like it makes the Talon that much better, but it makes it so that your units, your Aegis units, get significantly more MR the more Aegis you have. I kind of wanted to talk about how he's positioning with this Viego unit, with this Viego comp. And in most comps, your positioning heavily depends on your carry. You know, a lot of times you're maneuvering your front line and your back line to support your carry. But with Viego, it's a little bit different because Viego always jumps towards the biggest clump, so it essentially does not matter where you position him first. So a lot of the nuance in this comp is positioning with, you know, the units that you actually can make effective use out of their positioning. Like units like Leona. A unit like Leona heavily depends on where you position her first, because if you can choose to put a Leona in front of a mech set or in front of like a random Viego, I mean, in front of like a random other frontline unit like Sejuani or something, you want the Leona to be in front of a unit like mech set so that it has a higher chance of just tearing through the massive front line with the true damage that Leona gives you. We can see here that he actually, so he had Silas in with 3 Renegade, and then he capped his board around 6 Renegade, but then now that he's hit a bunch of 2-star 5 costs, he's actually back down to 3 Renegade, because units like Fiddlesticks, Urgot, you can see he has this Mordekaiser, they're just better on your board than units like Camille and Talon and Silas. You can see he's never going to be playing around 6 Renegade again. He went ahead and sold the Talon, but he did keep this Silas because he was considering putting it back in like he did now, because after watching that fight, he thinks that this Silas and the ability that it gives with his hero augment is actually more beneficial than a Fiddlesticks 1. You know, allowing units like Leona and Mordekaiser and Viego and Aesol to cast quicker is like a really big deal. And so, yeah, he ended up putting the Silas back in, but as soon as he hits a Fiddlesticks 2, he's going to go ahead and put that Fiddlesticks back out. He actually went for tier off a carousel there, and he had a belt on his bench. You can see how much he understands what he needs for this to win this lobby, because he ends up making this redemption here because he knows he's fighting against other Viego players, and redemption is easily one of the strongest ways to beat a Viego comp. Because since Viego, you know, like I said, he targets the biggest clump, redemption helps you reduce the damage that AoE abilities do. So you keep on getting run over by Viego comps, maybe consider building more redemptions. We can see here that the player that he's fighting against actually has this Leona interaction that I was talking about. This Leona only has 1 tier item, it has a redemption, and he's playing 2 Silas on his board with the Petrocite chains, and the Leona is insta-casting. So he has 6 Urgots here, and he has a lot of gold. And he's gonna try and roll for Urgot 3, because he knows that his opponent doesn't have any Urgot, so he actually has a pretty good chance of hitting. Goes for a second TG there. He's gonna start rolling really aggressively. He's basically gonna send 0 because he knows that this could easily be the last round of the game. I want you to understand that last fight he won pretty convincingly, right? Now, even though that I said that there's not too much positioning that matters, there's definitely some small things that you can do. So he won the last fight pretty convincingly, nothing has changed, and then he ends up losing. But he spent that entire turn rolling, and he spent 0 of the turn positioning, and so now that he's going to make some small tweaks, look how this next fight goes. I think the biggest thing that he did poorly was, yeah, he had his Viego right in front of this MF, and it just got shotgun blasted. And also the opponent's Leona got a lot of value casting in the previous fight, and it barely got any value casting this fight. And you can see that he pretty convincingly wins that round there. A lot of things going on here. The new patch is pretty crazy. There's so many different comps that are viable. It's been really fun playing it and watching games. Hopefully you learned something from this video. And like the video if you liked it. I'll see you in the next one.